But we have a longer time, even though we have 3 candidates for town council. So maybe we'll get through all of these. Lots of good questions I were looking at. Okay. One more minute. Everybody take a deep breath. Again, I'm Barbara McDade, and I'm from the Greater Bangor League of Women Voters, and I'm very happy to be the moderator tonight. We have 3 candidates that are running for town council. They are Chris Gray, Ron Murphy, and Kim Stewart. They have drawn for what position they will start in, and then I will mix them up as we go along, which is much easier to do with 3 candidates than 2 candidates. And the time has begun. And so, Ron, can you give us an opening statement?
I'm the lucky drawer. I get to go number 1.
Do you want to come up here or do you want to stay at your seats? Whatever you guys decide.
I'll stay right here.
Okay.
My name's Ron Murphy. I've lived in town for approximately 43 years. I was captain on the Hermon Fire Department for many of those years. I worked at a local auto parts store for 30 years, and then I went in business for myself for 17 years. Started a lawn care and landscape business with my wife. She both threw up when I told her when I come home and gave my notice after 30 years. We made it work. We built it to one of the biggest landscape and lawn care businesses in the area. And my son now runs X. I'm fully retired. And one of the reasons I wanted to run for town council is because I wanted to give back to the community. It's been so good to me over the 43 years. So thank you. I'm not long-winded. So.
Hi, I'm Stuart. I am slightly long-winded, and I also have to write down everything. So kudos to those who can do it off the cuff. If I were to pass you my resume tonight, you would find the following: lifelong local, mostly to Brewer, now Hermon, obviously. Bachelor's and master's degree in business from Maine and Husson, respectively. Graduate steering committee member and curriculum co-chair for the Bangor Region Leadership Institute. My titles have included accounting analyst, customer experience specialist, and customer experience data analyst. Finally, my most profound professional title is medium-sized business owner, and recipient of the Best Places to Work in Maine award over the last 2 years. We grew our business over the course of 3 years from just my husband and I on the weekends while we worked on full-time jobs to 60 employees ranging from Holton to Augusta, Farmington, Ellsworth, and now Bar Harbor. Most importantly, I'm a mother of 2 amazingly fierce little girls, wife of a veteran who also happens to be my high school sweetheart, daughter of 2 educators, one of them in the audience tonight, and I'm a little sister, which I like to think keeps me young, forever young. That's who I am on paper, but who am I as an actual person? A local leader who I look up to very much once told me that above everything else, as leaders, we should be able to answer the following questions. Number 1, who am I? I'm a proven leader who is passionate about humanity and doing what is right for all people. I want to instill positive change in and for others. I value realness and integrity, expect our community to be not just a place we call home, but a feeling we get from the people and places within it. Number 2, what do I stand for? I stand for people, communication, clarity, smart growth, and community. I do this by valuing perspective, social intelligence, humor, bravery, and leadership. And number 3, why should anyone care? I'm confident that I will bring a fresh, balanced, and nonpartisan perspective to our town council. I am naturally curious, I value feedback, and I'm not afraid to go straight to the source to ask tough questions. Chris?
So my name's Christopher Gray. I'm running for a seat on the town council, live here in Hermon. I've been a resident of Hermon for since 2006, so about 17 years or so. I'm a police officer. I've been a police officer for over the past 10 years. including serving as a patrol deputy here in the town of Hermon for about 2.5 years. More important than what I do for a profession is, what I stand for and who I am as a person. I'm a resident, like I said, but more importantly, I'm a business owner. I also do construction on the side. So I've owned my own construction company since around the year 2004. And I'm a husband, I'm a father. Those are most importantly, and I'm a follower of our Lord Jesus Christ. The natural leadership abilities that I get come from the Lord himself. And I do a lot of instruction at the academy as a result. The Criminal Justice Academy has kind of tapped me, if you will, to serve in a higher purpose, which includes teaching cadets at the academy and teaching new instructors at the academy as well. So leadership is part of my thing. It takes me a little while to get comfortable. So if I'm red, it's because I'm nervous. But regardless of that, I'm a drug recognition expert. So in my profession, I'm one of 80 certified in the state for drug recognition. So that's one thing that I'm kind of passionate about, is taking violent offenders off our streets, including waiver arrests, and teaching that to our next generation of future police officers in the state. Why do I want to serve on the town council? I want to be able to serve in a higher capacity locally. I've been to a lot of town council meetings. I've been to a lot of school board meetings. I've been to a lot of planning board meetings. And that's one thing that I kind of have the in and out of what the town is and how it operates. So I'd like to serve in a higher capacity through using my leadership experience to make that happen at the local level.
Jim, let's start with you. And what part of the town do you live in? And what town service do you or your family use most and enjoy the most? And what town service do you see as the most important to the community? Is that too much?
It's a lot, but so I'll start with the first part. Is it where do I?
What part of town do you live in?
Extremely close here, actually. Oh, sorry, you want me to say that? I live on Timberview Drive. For those of you that don't know, it's literally like up the street across from town hall and around the bend. So very close.
What town service do you and your family use the most and enjoy the most?
I think my children would have a different answer for that than I would. They've really enjoyed the Dollar General. My wallet, not so much. I hate having to pass by there now. I guess if you would call Hermon Rec a service, which I would, that's the one I've been enjoying the most. Wanting to be a mom for so long and not being athletically inclined, I've been looking forward to my children using that, all of the rec sports and everything. So that's what I've enjoyed the most.
And what town service do you see as the most important to the community as a whole?
So number one, public safety. That's one of the reasons why I actually moved here, is because I'm a very anxious person. I love that our, Hermon ambulance is there right now. I love that the fire department is right down the street. It's close to the school. I think that's super important. I've, loved all of my interactions with Cody Sullivan. So number one, that. But number two, I'm just going to go back to recreation. I think recreation is so important for people of all ages. I think they've done a great job of really giving us a range of things. So now they have infant massage. I think they've brought back the senior citizen lunches. I don't know, someone else might know. But anyway, providing a whole range. I do think there's a lot of work and expansion that we could do with the rec department, utilizing a lot of the town assets that we already have. Yeah, so I guess the rec all around is the one that I enjoy and value the most.
Thank you. Ron, let's go to you next. What part of town do you live in?
I live on the 809 Fuller Road. It's probably about 3 miles from here, west.
What town service do you or your family use the most and enjoy the most?
I think what we use the most is probably the Danforth Plaza. I think that's added a lot to this community. The dentist shop in town, I think that's a really added benefit as well. that's about all the services that I use.
And what town services do you see as the most important to the community?
Most important to the community is the one we're in right now, which is the fire department. I think we're very fortunate to have the staff that we have here. Very, very seldom do we go without a call being missed. We've got some really dedicated firefighters here. Looking forward to what they can do for us in the future as well. Thank you.
Chris? What part of town do you live in?
I also live on the Fuller Road. I live at 512 Fuller Road, just almost across the road from DA Pearson.
And what town service do you and your family use the most and enjoy the most?
We utilize all sorts of things in town. We go to the dentist here locally, as Ron stated. Danforth Plaza, we like going there. I like Root 2 Nutrition because their protein shakes, especially peanut butter cup. Highly recommend, 10 out of 10. And that's about it. We were all over town. We've been to Jackson Beach several times. I was there working for the sheriff's office when they incorporated the changing rooms and the bathrooms that are down there. So good service.
And what town service do you see as the most important to the community?
Most important to the service, to the community is public service. I'd hate to toot that horn too many times, but it's a big asset that kind of goes unrecognized in town. It's you never really think of them until you need them, and when you need them, you hope they're there instantly. So they, hats off to the deputies that are currently working out here, past, present, and future. Their service is phenomenal.
Very good, Emily. Well, just stand up here. We'll go to the next question. If town staff came to you with a proposal to build a new piece of public infrastructure in town, a road, a bridge, building, how would you evaluate whether or not the project is worth implementing?
Worth implementing would have to come from expense versus income standards. So if you're talking office space, what's that going to generate for revenue in the town versus the expenditure that the town is going to have to, spend on having that built. If it comes from private funding or something like that, what kind of asset is it going to be for the town? What kind of services is it going to provide for our town people? So good for that.
Ron, if staff came to you with a proposal to build a new piece of public infrastructure, a road, a bridge, a building, how would you evaluate whether or not that project is worth implementing?
First and foremost is the money. We enjoy low taxes here in town. We really have to look at that to see what the benefit of everybody in town that's going to be used for. Not just a few, but everybody, because we have to look at taxes at everybody. We have to look at how everybody feels in town. That goes through a process. That's going to go through the economic director, through the planning board, and then finally to us to look at. So it goes through a lot of boards before it gets to the town council. But economics would certainly play a big part in that. Yeah.
Yep. If town staff came to you with a proposal to build a new piece of public infrastructure, a road, a building, a bridge, how would you evaluate whether or not that project is worth implementing?
So first of all, I would have so many different questions, starting with, of course, as Ron said, cost. But I think first it would be, if it's particular to a road, is it because it's due to a safety issue, a traffic or congestion issue? Is it a road that's going to allow people easier access to the businesses in the town, and how will that affect the businesses? Are we going to be putting a road or a building on a piece of land that is currently part of Hermon's historical, Hermon Village? And is that true to maintaining the rural characteristics of our town? I've been talking with a lot of people in our town, and people are very passionate about maintaining a rural character. And so, I think when it comes to development, that is something that definitely needs to be taken into consideration. So, does this affect our town as a whole? In what way? What does the future maintenance look like on it? Is the cost kind of one time? Is it something we'd have to spread over 20 years from now?
Kim, we'll start with you again. Do you support the town ending its relationship with Hermon Rescue? Why or why not?
So again, I'm an information person. I clearly was not part of the executive sessions. So I don't have all of the information. I can tell you that from people that I know, there's sort of a sense of heartbreak, I guess. Hermon Rescue was here for 55 years. They were part of the fabric of our community. I think it's always hard when you have those close-knit community personal relationships with people, right? Do I know the history of everything that went on with Hermon Rescue? I do not. I haven't had the chance to ask all of those questions. Do I think more questions should have and could have been asked throughout that process? Yes. I think I would have been more curious about Northern Light and the complaints they've had, the lawsuits they've had. I don't think that we are necessarily replacing apples with oranges. However, I can kind of see I was gonna say that pudding phrase. I don't know what it is. The proof is on the pudding. I think I know where we're going with this as Hermon. And I think I can get there eventually.
Thank you. Chris, do you support the town ending its relationship with Hermon Rescue? Why or why not?
I do, and that's the short answer. I know a lot of people are in contention over whether or not we should have ended that service, but I come from a position of law enforcement and public safety, and working in town for 2.5 years here as a part-time deputy. I can tell you that I work closely with some of the members of the Hermon Rescue Squad. So given that information, and given where I've worked for the past 8 years as a police officer full-time, I've seen the disparity between the two different groups. And let me be a voice of reassurance for you that the system that the town is planning on incorporating for service and access to first responder care is phenomenal. It's one of those systems that they can rely on heavily for faster response times in some instances, and the money fits. It fits our budget, fits our budget projections, and it's not a big impact on our community financially. So the service that we get is going to be greater, and the money that we're spending is exactly the same. So why wouldn't you go for the common sense?
Rod?
I do agree that should have been changed. We are going to have a better service. I think our first responders out of the fire station will probably leave this building within a minute or less. And they're going to be advanced EMT/paramedics all the time, 7/24. And that's what this town needs. We are a growing community. We probably got 6,400 people here in town, and we are still growing. On the average of probably 100 homes a year. So we definitely need that service. We definitely need to be full-time, and we definitely need advanced EMTs and paramedics at all levels. And what was the last part of that, or was that it?
Either way. Just why or why not?
Oh, okay. Good.
Ron, we'll start with you again. I just like it, it works. If you could change one thing in the town zoning code, what would it be?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know if there's really anything that I would change in the zoning code. I think it works pretty well by going through the planning board before it gets to us as well. There's some things maybe we could tweak in that. Probably there is. I'm on the comprehensive committee right now, and we are looking at a lot of things in town. I don't know. Probably you could change maybe the size of house lots, maybe. Why not more road frontage? There are some different areas you can look at, but you got to do it in small increments. You can't make a big change. Sometimes government tends to go all one way, and then whoops, we shouldn't have gone that way, and then the back tracking all the way. So you have to do it in small increments, and so that you don't get too far one way and then too far the other way. So I think by going through the planning board and then through the council, I really think it works well for this town. If you look at some of the housing, my time is up, so I'm going to stop right there.
A minute's not very long.
Well, sometimes it's very long. Chris?
It's long enough for me.
Change one thing in the town zoning code, what would it be?
I don't really have any changes in the zoning code itself. If they want to zone, my 28 acres is something, so I can expand it greatly, that would be cool. But ultimately, I think the process that they go through right now is proper and justified for the amount of growth and the rate of growth that we're seeing. Right now, I think in town, we're seeing some of that growth that has been just pushing forward for years and years has finally started to slow down a little bit. So I think the planning board and the zoning laws that we have currently in place are satisfactory for what we're looking at for now and for the future in town.
I can't properly say that I do or don't have any changes I would make to the zoning code because I'm not fully informed. I'm sure that would be something I'd quickly learn more about if given the chance to be on the council. What I can say is I think when it comes to zoning, one thing that the council really needs to keep into consideration is, again, maintaining the rural characteristics of our town. And also, I think where communication is a big hot topic in our community right now. Speaking with a resident, she brought up a great point about zoning. So as you can see, there's not very many people in this room tonight. As Ron just said, there's about 6,400 people in this town. Not everyone is aware of everything that's going on. And if there was going to be a highway built in my backyard and I didn't know about it because I wasn't showing up to town council meetings, I wouldn't be very happy about that. I think communication is key. I think we should be reaching out directly to the, stakeholders that zoning changes are going to impact and just, putting the people first.
Chris? What have you done to familiarize yourself with the town's budget? Support the current budget, and if no, what suggestions do you have?
So I went to one of the first financial planning committee meetings that they had as a subcommittee of the school board to hear what they had projected on the budget itself. I'm familiar with what they are asking for roughly in numbers and what's coming out of undesignated funds versus the town ask, which is a budget increase over last year. I'll reserve my comments on that for a later time. But what was the second part of that?
Do you support the budget? And if no, what suggestions do you have?
I don't support it as it's currently written. I think there are some room for some cuts there. Looking through the budget, they're making room for things like an anime club and a gaming club and things like that, which in my experience and from my own education growing up and my son's education, it's not necessary to have those things in a school budget when our grades are failing across all age groups. So if we can shore up the funding and save some money by making some common sense cuts, I think it's something that would benefit the town taxpayers and take the burden off them to keep us from going over this fiscal cliff that is going to be occurring by 2025.
Sorry, can you read it again?
What have you done to familiarize yourself with the town and school budget? And do you support the budget? And if no, what suggestions do you have?
Okay, so sorry, is this a two-part question? Did you say town and school budget, or is it
Right.
just about the school budget?
It's about the town and school budget.
Because I don't think Chris knew that when he answered.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I might have missed that. That's okay.
I don't know if she said it or not. I just wanted to make sure.
Oh, I'm
I think you did.
I think you might have said school.
not school. Yeah, I'm sorry. It's about the town and the school budget. I'm sorry. And Chris, I can give you extra time if you want to.
Oh, right now. As far as the town budget goes, I've briefly looked over the 2024 fiscal reports that have been submitted online, and the budget looks good for what it is. Obviously, there's a little bit of an increase with the fire department because of that first responder service that they're incorporating, but it's offset by some balancing of the budget in some other areas, which you might see a small increase, if any at all, and I'm satisfied with that for the year.
Thank you. And now,
So to answer the first part, what have I done to, is it educate myself about the two budgets? Okay, so the school budget, I have been attending actually all of the school board meetings, not budget meetings, but the school board meetings that spoke to the budget over the past few months, as well as the town council meeting where Micah was able to present. I also spent 2 hours yesterday with Micah's finance director, Jamie, combing through the budget to make sure that I understood it better. I had many questions that I think align with a lot of the questions I've heard many of you have. Now that I've gone through everything, got a better understanding from the people who are actually professionals to create the school budget, I have more of a comfort level with it. I think nobody should be being paid $11 an hour. I am happy that our ed techs are getting paid. I'm not going to say how much, but still too little. I think that's a very important part of education. Now I'm not going to get to the town because 1 minute is not long enough. And as far as, the extras, the anime, the gaming clubs, I actually spoke with Brian Welch about clubs, and there was actually a law enacted in 1985 where if you say no to one club, you actually have to say no to all clubs, just so that you are remaining inclusive. So.
you want me to read it?
No, I think I remember. Municipal budget. Yes, there is an increase because of what we're doing for first responder service, and there is some increase overall on a lot of different things there. Obviously, economy plays a big part in that. We know how much everything is going up. So that plays a big part in that as well. So I'm fairly comfortable with it right now. We still have another reading on that, so there may be some numbers change there. So, and the same on the school. The school is only asking a little more than $300,000 for the town, but their budget has gone up tremendously. If it wasn't for the undesignated reserves that they have, they'd be asking a lot more money from the town. And my concern about next year and the year after. Yes, I am. I think the school and the school committee really needs to look at some ways of maybe they could stretch their dollars a little bit more so the taxpayers don't have to burden all that. So, thank you.
Kim, what line items in the municipal budget would you fight not to cut?
Not to cut. This is going to seem very minuscule. But I've been slightly concerned about the Hermon connection. I have a soft spot in my heart for the elderly that are in our community. I have found over the past, couple of months, starting campaigning, that they are not aware of many things that are going on. That is sort of their lifeline to our community. I did notice the budget for that next year went down, and it kind of was a red flag to me. So I know that's peanuts, but that's one of them. Another one would be anything to do with recreation. I think recreation in a town, especially like ours, is so important. I think for our children, it's the gateway into the wonderful sports that we have. I think Hermon is a sports town. Recreation is what's building, these children's confidence, teamwork, cooperation, all of those things. I think it's just a great extra to the, wonderful schools we have. In my time as a guest.
Ron, what line items in the budget would you fight not to cut?
Probably about everything that's in it. On the connection, I think we went up $3,000 on that this year. Don't quote me 100% on that, but I believe we did. Say we're going to have another reading on that Thursday, and I think that did increase. There really isn't anything in the budget that I like. Everything that's there. I think our new town manager Josh has done a really good job as far as organizing that and making it clearly understood exactly where every department stands. So be happy with the way the town budget is. Was there another part to that?
That's it. Chris, what line items in the municipal budget would you fight not to cut?
Everyone spoke on the Hermon connection, so I guess I better as well. I've looked through the Hermon connection, and it was $18,000 last year and $18,000 this year as well. So it doesn't look like there was any change at all. Someone please look that up for me. Correct me if I'm wrong. Regardless of that, I'm in Ron's same boat with that. I don't think any cut should be made to the budget at all if it can be avoided. If we can keep the tax rate the same without making any sort of cuts, then that's a win for the town and all of the residents from all different financial categories in town. Infrastructure, public safety, if we maintain good roads, and if we continue to keep the same level of service that we have from our fire department and the sheriff's office, then that's a huge win for the town.
Ron, with a projected growth in population over 30% by 2032, how can the town and the school continue to meet the needs of the community?
Great question, whoever wrote that. That's something that I hope that the school committee is looking at that more so than the council, because that's where the information needs to come from. Are they looking ahead to see what those projected revenues are? I think that they are some, but I think it really needs to be looked at because some of the, not so much in the high school, but some of the lower schools are really busting at the seams. And it's going to happen at the high school as well. Like I say, we are growing probably not so much this year and maybe next year because of the economy, but we have been growing about 100 homes a year. And with those 100 homes, obviously comes with families. So yes, we are gonna grow, and all of us need to look at what we're gonna do for the future of the school. And if correct me if I'm wrong, I got 15 seconds left. I don't think we have any more room in any of our schools as far as land goes. We either got to go higher or we got to find another spot. So there's a lot of stuff that needs to be looked at, and that's a lot to unpack.
Chris, with a projected growth in population over 30% by 2032, how can the town and the school continue to meet the needs of our community?
30% in the next 10 years, I think, is less growth than what we've had in past years. I can't say specifically, but I think growth is inevitable and it's something that is bound to happen. So we have to accommodate the best we can with what we're dealt with. As far as the growth of the school and, part of the budget process is projection, as some others might have stated. And we should be projecting for the growth that we're going to incur. And that, like on the elementary school, we built a wing and it was outgrown before it was even completed in construction almost. And it's one of those things where we have to project a little bit better for the growth that we're actually realizing in town.
With a projected growth in population over 30% by 2032, how can the town and school continue to meet the needs of our community?
I think the key words in that question are town and school. the growth of the community is not a fault of either one of those boards. If we are expecting 30% growth, I think we need to first take a look and ask, can we even afford that? Can we maintain that? Can our public safety offices maintain that? If we're bringing in these people, does the sheriff's department have the capacity to bring on more people? Does the fire department have capacity to bring on more people and more homes? I think it's one thing to talk about the projection, but I think a whole conversation needs to happen of, is that projection sustainable by our town? And is it going to meet the goals of our residents? We all expect a reasonable, if not very low compared to other towns, mill rates. And does the growth maybe need to just slow down a little bit and happen a little more gradually in order to maintain that?
Chris, a new question. That's quite related to the last one. How can Hermon retain its rural character with the pressures of increased residential and commercial development?
That's a really good question. It's difficult to maintain that rural feel, and I think I just would have to come from my own experience and say that's why a lot of people probably moved into town in the first place, was the rural feel, the bedroom community of Bangor feel of it, the low tax rate and things like that. So should we be striving to maintain that? I think we should, but growth is inevitable and it's bound to change in the town to some degree. So we just have to find ways to, think outside the box and just try to find ways to fund those through different outlets. We need to support our businesses, but we need to support our residents as well, because that's our tax base and that funds the projects that keeps this town ever growing. As far as being a bedroom community of Bangor, it's something that I think is going to be maintained, prospectively by itself. I think that's why people move here, to stay out of the suburbs of Bangor and kind of get a little bit outwards, where you can still have access to everything in Bangor, but have the comfort and the community feel of Hermon.
Ron, how can Hermon retain its rural character with the pressures of increased residential and commercial development?
That's one of the things that we're strongly working on the comprehensive, because we do want to maintain the rural. There was a survey sent out that I think everybody got and sent in. I think 93% came back and said they want this town to remain a rural community. So we really need to strive for that. Slowly running out of inventory. There's not a lot of land for sale, so that's going to dictate a lot of that growth. We did on the council approve a DISATS project that's going to expand, because we have a lot of commercial that want to come to this town, and we need that. Right now, we've probably got about, tax base wise, we probably got about 60% residential and 40% business that support this town. We need to maintain that, and I think the people in this town really dictate that we do stay that way.
Kim, how can Hermon retain its rural character with the pressures of increased residential and commercial development?
Yeah, so I think I've said this before. This is something I've been talking to some residents about, longtime residents. And, someone brought up the fact that in Freeport, the McDonald's, it looks like a brick house. So it doesn't have your typical corporate feel. Business owner, love new businesses, encourage new businesses. But I think in Hermon, we can try to maintain that unique rural feel with any businesses coming in, not just what they look like. So making sure that, if it is a building that can be used and not torn down, or not buy new land to allow a business to come in, but perhaps providing rehabilitation incentives to businesses that purchase current buildings that are in town, and put their business in there. Again, maintaining the structure of Hermon Village. I think Route 2 is easily becoming our main street in town. So I think, providing opportunities for trees and flowers to be planted like they do in downtown Bangor is a great idea too. That isn't very expensive.
let's start with you for the next one. Are you in favor of separating the town and the school and creating an RSU?
So my gut instinct for first answer is I'm not sure. I would need to do a lot of research, have conversations, see data. I think there's probably a hefty list of pros and cons to both. I will say that I believe that if we don't make a change to that, there needs to be huge changes made between our town council and our school board. Right now, there's an insane amount of tension for anyone who comes into either one of those meetings, not just from the people in the crowd, but from the people that sit behind the table on both sides. I've spoken to some on the school board about how communication can be better. And if we're going to work as a team, then we need to work as a team. We can't be having the gotcha mentality and putting people in the hot seat at the meeting. Pick up the phone and have that conversation with your neighbor who sits on the other council. It doesn't seem that hard to me.
Chris, are you in favor of separating the town and the school and creating an RSU?
I would not be in favor of creating an RSU. I'd be in favor of keeping the Hermon School District the way that it is. I think from piggybacking off the last question, as far as growth and stuff, how do you make an RSU and bring more people to the school when we can't really afford to bring them in right now? So I think there is cooperation there between the town councilors and the school board, and we need to maintain that relationship in order to keep the budget process rolling for the students that we have in the surrounding communities that we currently are responsible for.
Fine. Are you in favor of separating the town and the school and creating an RSU?
That's a lot to unpack right there. I'd like to know what the reason someone asked that question, I guess. If that ever did happen, who would overlook the school? There's got to be checks and balances. I don't know how that would work. I'd be afraid that there'd be some runaway expenditures on something like that. Well, that creates a whole lot of problems. It really does, because the town owns the schools and the property, and would the school have enough money to be able to buy that from the town? I mean, that we're getting into stuff that we probably, hopefully, will never happen in this town, because there's no reason why that we need to do that. We should be able to get along with everybody. Yeah, I agree that some of our meetings and some of their meetings, it does get pretty tepid in there, and I think it all boils down to communication. So I think once everybody realizes we get the communication the way that we should, I think maybe some of that will calm down a little bit. So my time is up. Perfect time.
Tim? How will you ensure that our town's infrastructure is maintained and updated to meet the needs of our growing population? And what steps will you take to addressing existing infrastructure deficits? I'll read that again, I'm sorry. How will you ensure that our town's infrastructure is maintained and updated to meet the needs of our growing population? And what steps will you take to address existing infrastructure deficits?
Well, I think I wouldn't say first concern, because I think they're both equally as concerning between the growth and if the schools can maintain the growth, and then any current deficits. I think I would definitely want to focus on what the non-negotiables are first. So our schools, our roads, pedestrian and traffic safety, those are all things that we don't want to lose sight of, or put on the back burner, definitely not. As far as how I would work toward developing our infrastructure for the growth, I think that is definitely something that the town and school must come together to plan for. I think it probably should have happened before now, but I think now is better than never. But that is definitely something that would have to be a joint community effort. Hopefully that answered that question.
Chris, how will you ensure that our town's infrastructure is maintained and updated to meet the needs of our growing population? And what steps will you take to address existing infrastructure deficits?
I think you'd have to look at the line items for infrastructure that we have in the current budget and make sure that we're maintaining proper funding of those line items with the rate of our population growth and with the rate of inflation, because that's the only way you're going to maintain the current level of, proper infrastructure that we currently have. As far as the deficits go, you can't fix what you don't know about. It goes back to public safety issues where, when I work in a town and someone calls in a complaint about a pothole, that's sometimes the only way that Public Works knows that the pothole is there. So it's one of those things where the community kind of has to speak up on some of those issues and, call your Public Works, let them know where the deficits are so they can be addressed. And that can be projected into future budgets in the future.
Ron?
I got it. Overall, I think our roads here in town are pretty good. We do have some roads once in a while that get potholes, and I think our Public Works does a pretty good job of getting out there to get that done. There are a number of roads that they get hot topped every year. We spend major money on our roads here in Hermon. Comparatively to other towns, I think we're quite fortunate. I think our economic director, Scott, does a great job to make sure that those roads are taken care of. Between him and the town manager, they ride these roads every spring to look at them, to see what they can put in for the budget for the following year, to see what needs to be done. Some of the things that they're going to start trying to do is more maintenance on the roads, on the sides of the roads. We all know that we use a lot of sand in the wintertime, and the roads will get washed away. Sometimes they don't get paid much attention to it. If they can repair those sides of the roads and maintain the quality of those roads for a longer period of time. So I think that's some of the things that the town is working on. Perfect timing. So.
Chris, let's start with you. What business would you like to see come to the Bangor area, as well as what would you like to see come to Hermon?
Oh, that's a bad question for me because I don't shop a lot. Can I have my wife answer that? There's no real big box stores that I'd like to see come to Hermon. I think that, detracts from the rural feel and the rural aspect, bedroom community that we all like to see in our town. So I'm against big box stores coming to town, but we need more local businesses. We need more local business, small business owners to come to town and develop businesses in the business districts, because I'd honestly like to see some of the homes that are in the business districts get turned into businesses and the residential be residential. But that's maybe a pipe dream for me. But in general, we need to support local and support small business. So the more things that we can do to attract small business, the better for our community and that rural feel that we have.
Yep. I agree with Chris. I certainly don't want to see any big box stores come into Hermon. I mean, we're only 10 minutes from Bangor, and you can get anything that you want. If we started to have that definitely would take away from our rural. Yeah, I know I'm not very loud. But and having smaller businesses in town, I think would be a better way to do that in the business district instead of big, large stores. So, yeah.
So in Bangor, I would love to see Trader Joe's. In Hermon, I agree with Ron and Chris, definitely smaller businesses. I would love to see if there's any open spaces. I hate to see like empty business spaces. It makes me so sad. Something has got to be in there. I've heard of towns doing like pop-up businesses where someone has their booth in there for X amount of time and then someone else gets the opportunity until it's completely rented out. Or, you know, using it for community functions in the meantime, just not letting our vacant business spaces sit dormant. Also, one I'd love to see, I think we're missing like a family practice medical. I think we have a lot of elderly in our community and it would be great if they could just pop right down the street to go to their doctor. We have dentists, we have chiropractic, we have all of the things. That is the one thing that I wish I could just scoot right around the corner and go to the doctor.
This is one I wouldn't have expected anyway. Ron, who are your role models and why?
Boy, I'd be dating myself. I started saying some of that. You know, I'm a big sports fan. Roger Staubach. Yeah, and I'm really dating myself. I know that. But he was a great role model, Navy veteran, and I think he served this country very well and did very good as a Dallas Cowboys too. He was one of my role models growing up, and what was the other part of that? Was that it?
That's it?
That's it.
Or why?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
So I'm gonna be honest, I always hate this question. Yeah. So instead of a role model, I guess when I think about someone who has all of the characteristics that sometimes I wish more people had, is as a business owner, we've had the opportunity to be a second chance or second opportunity employer. We've employed people who are, you know, they've already gotten themselves off the street. They have gone through rehab and, you know, they obviously are still dealing with their substance use disorder. I think that's a lifetime thing, even if you are out of rehab. But they just want to work and they want to be given that second chance. You know, we've employed people who are literally living at the Bangor homeless shelter. And they are probably the hardest working people that I have ever met. And, you know, they've strived to get homes for themselves after getting a job, cars. You know, they were dealt a horrible hand, and yet they didn't just sit back and let the rest of us take over for them. They stepped forward, asked for jobs in some situations, begged for jobs. And I just think that we could all strive to be more like that.
Who is your role model and why? Or who are your role models and why?
Plural. There are two. My first one is our Lord and Savior in Christ Jesus. I'm not going to beat around the bush with that one at all. He's the only man that I will follow for eternity because he laid his life down for us, and we can only hope to attain that level of perfection. Instead of looking at the words and cherry picking Bible verses from the Bible itself, you need to act like a theologian and look at the text in total and what it means. My second role model is my father. He has given everything to me and my brother, sacrificed himself through and through for our entire lives, not only me and my brother, but for my son as well, and also my nieces. So it's one of those things where, you know, he's near and dear to my heart, and our Lord and Savior. That's all I got.
You suck. Do you think the process should or should not change in the school town budget process? And why or why not?
That's a very good question. The budget process itself is done in a certain way, and it's worked for however many years, but there could be more communication between the school budget committees and the town councilors. It's one of those things where they can check and balance off each other consistently, and it doesn't have to be as formal as budget hearing 1, budget hearing 2, let's vote. Budget hearing 1, budget hearing 2, let's vote. It can be a communication throughout the budget process to discuss hot button, expenditures or ways that people can save. So it's one of those things that the communication aspect of it can be improved in order to make the budget process run more smooth.
Thanks, Ron.
Sure. I think the process works the way that it is fairly well. Is it perfect? No, there isn't anything that's perfect. I will give kudos to Micah that he invited a couple of the council people to go to some of the budget meetings. I think that's helped a lot because that's given us some information a little bit earlier than what we used to get. And that's what we need on the council side. We need to be looking at the budget all the time to see where we are. So I kind of like the way the process works. I would just like to have a little bit more information earlier.
Yeah. Do you think the process should or should not change in the school town budget process?
Yeah, so I'm very new to the process and also don't think I have all of the details because I've heard a variety of different things about who and when people get involved. I will say that as far as the budget process for companies I've worked for where there's many different stakeholders, I have never seen where the budget is only looked at once a year. So I think town and school should be getting together and discussing the budget during like interim budget meetings quarterly. I think regular reporting should be very quick. With Jamie yesterday, she was able to plug away and print whatever I asked for. So I think that's something that, since we are not an RSU, town councilors need to be involved with the school budget, not just at budget time, but asking questions and working with the school throughout the entire year, whether that's a policy change. Again, I'm not sure. I just know that as a town councilor, I would be asking to be more involved throughout the year to understand, like Chris said, any hot expenses that we weren't expecting.
Thanks. Kim, can we start with you? Next question. What are the major economic problems that you see in our area? And can you work with area towns and city to address them?
A major economic, what'd you say, problems? I think a huge one would be housing, and that if we're working with, area, not just Hermon, but the whole area. In Bangor, that is obviously a huge problem, and I know that they're slowly chipping away at it. That's always been a very overwhelming topic for me, but it is one that I wish was easier. Unfortunately, it's not, and I don't have a perfect answer as far as what Hermon can do to help. But I would say that I think it's that would be the one worth investigating for me. Would be the unhoused in Bangor and how Hermon can help with that.
Chris? What are the major what are the major economic problems in the area, and how can you work with the other communities to address?
So again, on my public safety platform, it's kind of piggybacking off Kim's answer a little bit. The housing often stems from other financial issues that are going on in their lives, and primarily in Bangor, it's drug abuse and drug use. Substance abuse is running rampant in our community right now, and there's just not enough of us to take care of the problems. So what do you do to fix it? You have to incorporate other avenues of trying to get these people clean and get them on the straight and narrow path. So it's something that we have to explore with public safety. Because if we can explore that aspect of it, then we can drive down the costs that come as a result of that substance abuse, which includes healthcare costs, which includes public safety resource, and things of that nature. So if we can tackle substance abuse first, we can tackle a whole lot of issues as a result of it.
Thank you. Ron?
I agree with the substance abuse. It is running rampant, especially in the Bangor area, and it's more in Hermon than I think we realize. We just don't see the homeless here in this town like we do in Bangor. But it will eventually work its way here, and yes, we do have to come up with some ways of being able to handle that. Healthcare right now is extremely to the seams on the drug related thing, and I don't know if there's one easy answer. I wish we all had a magic wand, we could wave it and it's done, but there's a lot to unpack there, and we certainly have to be mindful of the drug abuse and the vacant homes that we need to address, council-wise and also the community as well.
Chris? The school board and superintendent are able to enter into agreements with other towns to have those students come to Hermon High School. This puts the entire town on having to build a new school to be able to handle the increased enrollment without any say from the town council or citizens. Do you think this should be a town citizen vote or not?
That's a large question. Could you repeat it? I'm
And
sorry.
I will also give it to you. The school board and superintendent are able to enter into agreements with other towns to have those students come to Hermon High School. This puts the entire town on having to build a new school to be able to handle increased enrollment without any say from town council or citizens. Do you think this should be a town citizen vote or not?
I mean, citizen input in general is, thank you. That's a lot. Yeah, that's a pretty loaded question, so I'll try to tackle it the best I can. I think citizen input at all levels of government is important. That's part of the checks and balances of government. It keeps the government in check. So it's one of those things where if citizens can have input on a subject, I think it's important to let them have the input that they need to have. As long as it's fact-based input, I don't see why that's an issue. As far as building a new school, I don't know as if Hermon would actualize seeing the rate of rapid growth that would require building a new school from the get-go. So I'm not sure where that's coming from, but citizen input in general is always important from my point of view.
Would pass
I
that.
sure can.
Yeah. I agree with Chris. Citizen input is certainly important, but at the same time, we rely on our school officials to make that call. I think I heard somebody say that there was 40% is from outside the area. That's really a lot. And I don't think we're getting enough money from those tuitions to be able to support how much it really costs a student per year. My understanding is it's anywhere from $12,000 to $14,000 per student right now. And I don't think we're getting nowhere near that from the other communities. Now, I know it went up a little bit this year, but I still don't think it covers that. And I think that's where we need to start focusing on that, as to maybe, and I know a lot, the state has a lot to say about that as well. So it's not so much I'm blaming the school, but the state has a lot to say about how much the town of Hermon actually gets. Well, that's pretty complicated, because I really think that the school board and the school administrators really should be the ones making that kind of decision.
Thank you. This is a loaded question, so I'll kind of just pick at it a little bit. I agree with Ron that I think the elected officials for the school and for the town are elected to make those decisions together. That is the purpose of the boards. Voter input is obviously very important. I think overall, where the community is given the chance to vote on the budgets, I think that's kind of where that lies. Again, going back to making the budget more available throughout the year so that people have time to come to town council meetings or school board meetings and ask these questions and give their input. Also, when I was sitting with Jamie, you know, I learned a lot about what does go into the amount of tuition that we are able to get. And a lot of that is what we can provide these students. The more we can provide them for education, extracurriculars, the more we're able to ask for. So maybe it's more looking at that to make sure that we are not covering the cost of a new school, but I agree, I don't think a whole new school is needed. My time has elapsed. We're willing to talk more about this.
Now that you're comfortable. What policies do you support to promote community engagement and civic participation? And how will you ensure that every resident has a voice in decision making?
I think there is definitely some room for growth and opportunities when it comes to allowing public comment at both meetings. I think, I do think we're given a pretty fair chance of public comment at meetings. I would like to see more conversational style. I absolutely love that the town council has started doing the coffee with the counselor or counselors. I think that it just kind of makes it more personal. You know, you don't have to wait and you only have 3 minutes to talk. I would like to see more things like that. I recently did a Zoom, you know, open Zoom for whoever wanted to join to talk to me about, you know, my views and everything. I think as a counselor, I would continue to do things like that. And I also would love to see on the site something called, a company I used to work for called it Complaint Corner. I would love to call it Complaint and Kudos Corner, where people can submit complaints or even kudos to the town of various things without having to know where to go or who to call or having to attend these meetings directly.
What policies do you support to promote community engagement and civic participation? And how will you ensure that every resident has a voice in decision making?
So you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. That's part of the thing. We had coffee with a counselor today and no one showed up. So there was 3 of us, I think, total that showed up. This is stuff that's promoted on Hermon's website. So, you know, why aren't people showing up? You can put it out there and you can say that, you know, this is available to have that question and answer and that citizen input that everyone needs and is looking for, but you can't make them attend. So what are the alternate routes to making somebody attend in, you know, a format like that? Do we have to create a Hermon app? Penobscot County Jail has an app where you can look up every inmate that's housed right now. So why can't we have an app that lists out the social events that are happening in town? So we can get back to that rural feel that, you know, I felt 17 years ago moving here, where everybody knows everybody, you're a recognizable face and things of that nature. So social media presence from the town would be good too. And every voice is important. So as long as we can get engaged at the local level, then things get easier to solve down the road.
Yep. That's one of the reasons I started the coffee with the counselors is because a lot of people don't have the time to be able to talk at council meetings, and it just gave them an avenue to come and meet us as well, express some of the concerns that they have. The first meeting we had last month was really great. We had a lot of people here. People had problems on both sides, but everybody really got along and talked about some of the problems, and I think it worked out good. This This time, absolutely nobody showed up. And that's gonna happen. I mean, it's nice weather now. People have certainly got other things to do. And there's a misconception out there. I just want everybody to realize that it's not a council meeting. This is a meeting for the citizens to come here to express some of their views of what's going on in the town. And that's really, and there's usually only 2 councilors here. So I just wanted to take that misconception away that it is a council meeting. It's not a council meeting at all. So, we're going to do it again next month, and then we'll probably lay off for the summer and start it again in the fall, if I'm lucky enough to be re-elected again. So, thank you.
Ron. Yeah, this is the last question. What do you see as the 3 most important areas to focus on improving should you get elected? And give supporting examples on how you plan to achieve the improvements.
Wow. You had to say that for last, and communication. Would you grab that for us so I can kind of read it at the same time? Because there's a lot of stuff there. Communication, I think, is, and we've heard that a lot, but it's very true. We need to communicate a lot better. Sometimes, I'll give you an example. Sometimes we get emails and sometimes we don't respond right away. And I'm guilty of that. And I need to work on that so that I respond to everybody a little bit faster than I have, or at least respond. Boy, I don't know. I really think the biggest thing is communication. And if I get elected again, I will make sure that I communicate a lot better than I have. Who's next?
Yeah, give it to you.
Does anybody need me to repeat the question? Yes.
Speak up.
Okay. What do you see as the 3 most important areas to focus on improving should you get elected? And can you give supporting examples how you plan to achieve improvements? So my first would be people. I think we have quite the gap to bridge between not just our 2 main councils in town, but also within the community. A toxic culture becomes systemic very quickly, and it's much harder to dig out of it than it is to get there. And so that would be the first thing that I would want to focus on. The second one would be offering extra value to taxpayers. So leveraging our current assets in the town that we're already paying taxes for, and providing personalized value. So programs, collaboration opportunities. I'd love to see like a mini chamber that businesses that are in Hermon can use to network and connect. I'd love to see strategies or incentives to engage the younger population, encourage them to stay local, work here, graduate from schools around here, and then stay or come back to Hermon to live. And then, of course, smart growth. So my focus would be to maintain the small town sense of community, the rural characteristics, but ultimately, oh, sorry, my time lapsed.
Chris, I believe Kim has the question.
No, he's good now.
What, I have a hard time reading this.
I know.
What do you see as the 3 most important areas to focus on improving should you get elected? And can you give supporting examples how you plan to achieve those improvements? I think for me, the first and foremost would be transparency at all levels of local government. It's something that I think has been lacking, and that has to do with the breakdown in communication itself. Why can't people just get along? Getting along comes with having a conversation with each other. So if you can't look each other in the eye and have a conversation, then what good are you going to do? What's going to get resolved? So transparency and being open with each other and having good communication are some key factors to solving a lot of the world's issues that are occurring in Hermon right now. I'd like to sit down and just have a conversation with people. Just, I'm not some big scary person, and I'm a willing communicator. I'm open to listening. Being a good listener is actively listening. So not just hearing what people are saying, but understanding what they're saying and why they're saying it. So it's important to have a communication with active listening. The other part is just compassion. And I know some people won't agree with that, but in order to be a good leader, you have to be a good communicator who leads with compassion as well, because that sometimes means the most to people in order for them to listen to what you have to say back.
Let's go in the order that we started. Ron, do you want to start with the closing statement?
Sure. First of all, I want to thank everybody for coming out. As many as that's here really shows that you're you're concerned about the community and people that are running for your elected officials. Voting starts on May 15th for early voting, and then on June 13th for the other one. And I hope everybody here gets out and votes. Get your family out. Get your friends. Anybody in town, because every election is very important. You got 3 people running for 2 seats. You want to make, and I agree with Mrs. Shore. She said most everybody's probably made up their minds of who they're going to vote for, and that's fine. That just means you're well informed, and that's the way it should be. So please, really appreciate your support.
Kim?
I just wanted to thank everyone for coming out tonight, and the League of Women's Voters for dragging us brave souls to come out and answer all these questions in the hot seat. It's not easy, but I think everyone did a great job. I'm excited about the possibility of being able to, help our town, work for our town, be the voice for our community. I remember when our oldest, Vivian, was born, I told my husband I will never do anything that takes me away from my family that I'm not completely passionate about. I've gotten my business to a point where I don't have to work 24/7 anymore. And I'm ready to take that next step. I've, served on boards before, and this just happens to be the one that I've been drawn to in this current moment in time. So thank you.
Yes.
How many minutes do we have? 2. Oh, that's not enough. Just kidding. It's probably too much. I'm very pointed and to the point on a lot of things. And if you saw me freaking out a little bit tonight, Amber, I'm sorry, but I lost my wedding ring. So when you're all done, if you can just do me a huge favor, just look under your seats for it, because it fell off somewhere. So I am sorry. That's why I've been freaking out. And now I have a minute left. That's why it's really not enough. 2 minutes isn't enough. But there's some key values that I hold near and dear to my heart, and part of that is honesty, integrity, transparency, compassion, excellence. It's a lot of values that are instilled in police officers and public service in the academy itself. It's values that are instilled on us, and it's usually a calling for most to get into that profession in the first place based on those values. So those are values that I hold near and dear to my heart. So with compassion, I say thank you all for coming out tonight and being a witness to this great event. And thank you to the League of Women Voters for putting it on. It's much appreciated, and hopefully you guys have a better sense of who we are as people, and together we can accomplish a lot in town. So that's about all I have. Please find my wedding ring.